Hey, what is up, guys? The Strong Boys 19 here. This is episode number 6 for Classic Albums Revisited, and I know it has been 1 year since I have reviewed Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys, but I am finally back to do another album review for this series, and as you can see, I'm going to be doing my review on Bob Dylan's 1966 masterpiece, Blonde on Blonde. Now, Blonde on Blonde came out in mid-1966, and it's the follow-up to two previous albums that came out the previous year, Highway 61 Revisited and Bringing It All Back Home. I know it should be the other way round, but you get the idea. So this is the very first double album to be released in the history of popular music. Another album which came out the same year was Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention's debut, Freak Out. But this was the one that started it all for the popularity of double albums. Now, the versions I've got of the album on CD and on vinyl, this is the 2003 remaster from Columbia Records. And the vinyl pressing is not an original, but this is the 2010 Music on Vinyl mono remaster, and it's a beautiful pressing, sounds amazing as well. So there's a lot of reviews going on about this album, why Blonde on Blonde became such an important yet significant release from Dylan as a musician. This album has 14 tracks and it is almost 73 minutes. And this was the last album in the Electric Trilogy. What can be said about Blonde on Blonde? For me personally, it is one of the most interesting, beautiful, and so damn imaginative releases I've ever heard in rock music, period. And it's an album that has many different styles. There are tracks on this album that are folk rock to blues to some ballads, and this album has some of my most favourite Dylan songs ever, like in the top 3. My favourite track on this album is Visions of Johanna. It's a 7.5 minute epic, and one of my other favourites on this album, the opening track, Rainy Day Women, number 12 and 35, which is like a fun big band type of opener to Pledging My Time. Leopard Skin Pillbox Hat, Just Like a Woman is another really popular single on this album, and another big favourite of mine is One of Us Must Know Sooner or Later to I Want You. And then you get to tracks like Stuck Inside of Mobile with the Memphis Blues again, and the closing track, the love ballad 11.5 minute track, Sad Eyed Lady of the Lowlands. The production of this album is spectacular, it's amazing, really well done by Bob Johnston, who produced other Dylan albums, but he was the producer for others, including Simon and Garfunkel, to Leonard Cohen and Johnny Cash. So I think Bob Johnston is one of the best producers of all time. Vocals wise from Dylan, it's quite like one of those slurry type of vocals, but he does them in a way to be like a characteristic type of vocalist, like he wants to express some feeling on some of these lyrics. Acoustic guitar sound on here is absolutely wonderful. The drums sounded really nice to the piano and the gorgeous organ sound. The electric guitars on some of the tracks, like Leopard Skin Pillbox Hat and obviously Five Believers, can be a little bit screechy at times, but it doesn't turn me off at all when I listen to this album. So this album has been just acclaimed for so many reasons. Dylan was 25 when he made this album. It's just insane that there's no other really great legendary solo artist to make amazing music with so much imagination and imagery, from the lyrics to the music. And it's just amazing that there's no other solo artist that can pull it off like Bob Dylan. From the time of the release of Blonde on Blonde and the eras of the previous two electric driven albums, people did not take it at all. And the touring was just so rough and all over the place. They praised Dylan when he did the acoustic set, but when he switched to the electric guitar with the band called the Hawks, now well loved and known as the Band, people just did not get it. People said that he sucks, calling him a sellout. And one of my favourite yet really stupid things to say from one of the people said about Dylan, he's a fake neurotic. And I just thought, it's Bob Dylan. He can do whatever he wants, because not only that he loved Woody Guthrie, but he loved rock and roll too, from artists like Chuck Berry, Buddy Holly, another one of his heroes. It's just so crazy that people who loved Bob Dylan just did not take the new direction that Bob wanted to try out and work on, because I think he did an amazing new direction. The previous albums were folk albums, from the freewheeling Bob Dylan to The Times They Are Changing. People loved him from tracks like Blowing in the Wind to Hard Rains Are Gonna Fall, Oxford Town, and The Times They Are Changing, Ballad of Hollis Brown, and so many others. But I just cannot believe that they really did not like Bob Dylan when he switched from acoustic to electric guitar. Anyways, so let me know what you think of Blonde on Blonde down in the comments below, and tell me if it's your favourite Dylan album, and if it isn't, you can mention your other favourite albums from Dylan's career. No wonder this album has been praised and to be known by many as his best album, besides Blood on the Tracks, which came out 9 years later in 1975. That album is a folk gem of a record, but I always think that Blonde on Blonde is one of the top greatest albums of all time, and I will be doing a separate video on my top 25 albums ever, and this album definitely deserves to be on that list. The production was phenomenal, the songs themselves fun, beautiful, catchy, instantly recognizable and memorable, and the amazing, dark, deep, and, you know, just phenomenal poetry that Dylan wrote on this entire album just blows my mind. The poetry is seriously one of the best things about this album, and I am not going to lie that that you may agree with me on that. So yeah, this is definitely one of my favorite influential albums ever, and if you have not checked out Blonde on Blonde, you need to check it out. But there are just so many people out there who already knows and loves this album for all eternity as much as I do. And yeah, that's all I wanted to say on Blonde, the 1966 magnum opus from Bob Dylan. Thank you guys for watching, and I will keep you guys posted for more videos in the near future.